We must now turn to possible connections between the Lios Earthwork and the church ruin of Tullagh. I presume it's Tullagh pronounced. Yeah, okay. Because of course it would have been Tullagh originally, the church in Baltimore townland. One often sees groups of Ringforts or Lioses organised in relation to each other on church lands. In other words, they have particular locations in relation to each other to facilitate, ironworking or whatever it might be. Okay. In this instance, the Lios Earthwork is a mere 650 metres from Tullagh Church, and the earthwork and church may be related to each other. If indeed Tullagh had been the site of an early church or monastery, it didn't appear. If you come down to the 1170s, if it was there earlier, and I believe it was, it's gone by 1170. The ruin of the present church on this site dates to around the 1720s, but there is evidence to indicate that the site was much older. The Down survey of the 1650s describes the church as that of Baltimore, where it is said to be in repair, so it was still in use at that stage by the established church. The Irish medieval parish system, I'll mention it. The Irish medieval parish system is essentially that erected by the Anglo-Normans upon their arrival, but with some links to an older native system known as the Tullagh church system. The earliest reference we have to the parish church of Tullagh occurs in the papal taxations of the early 1300s, when its annual value was estimated as half a mark. We know much about the clerics of Tullagh during the second half of the 15th century. I don't need to go into detail. There are 9 references to vicars and rectors of Tullagh between 1457 to 1500. 7 of these were O'Driscolls, 1 was an O'Donovan, another a McCarthy. Okay? They're related to each other in typical ways, such as, I won't go into technique. Basically, they were in dispute with there were various claimants to various parishes. And there was a phenomenon known as road running, where they would go Rome running, as in Rome. They would go to Rome and they would pay the fee, and they would be confirmed as vicar or rector of the parish. And then another fellow would come along who was disputing this, and he'd go to Rome and he'd get made officially Rome. As long as he was paid, basically, there could be 3 or 4 claimants to the one parish, Now, what that has got to do with us, not a lot, except that it just shows us that the parish church of Tullagh is operating normally in the 15th century. The older Irish Tullagh church system has its roots in the 10th and 11th centuries, and saw an organisational structure where each Tullagh had its own dedicated church, where certain features were reserved to the Tullagh church as the senior or parish church. The Tullagh church exhibited at least 2 of the diagnostic features of the later medieval parish church, which was a delimited territory, the Tullagh, because the church serves the Tullagh. And the Tullagh is the sort of basic unit of society above the townland itself. Now, what's really interesting here is that an extensive gloss, you see that word. A gloss is just a note on a manuscript. Manuscript exists, and somebody comes along 100 years later, gets the manuscript and writes a commentary on the left-hand side about what's in the main body. So that's what a gloss is. An extensive gloss, perhaps of the period around the 1160s, because we can date it because it eulogises the O'Driscolls as the true kings of Cork. And this gloss describes how Saint Fachna, now Fachna is the saint of Rosscarbery and the diocese of Ross as well. Saint Fachna, patron saint of the diocese of Ross, was associated with one Connell, said to have been founder of the church of Tullagh 10 in Cork, and who succeeded Fachna. Now, we know about whatever churches exist in Cork. In fact, there was only one that we're certain. Well, there's 2. We have Rosscarbery itself, and then we have this reference to Tullagh 10. Now, Tullagh 10 can only be Tullagh here. Okay, so what we have now is we have a reference from the 1160s pertaining or representing itself as how will I say, as existing in the 500s and 600s AD. And this mentions an important church of Tullagh 10, and Tullagh is obviously meant here. That's sorry, no, but straightforward is the point. Okay, and this St. Conall succeeded Fachna in Roscarbery. He was also remembered in the gloss as associated with Kieran of Clare and Sir Kieran in Kilkenny, and as the founder of an important church in Tullagh 10, rich in monks and nuns. Kieran is said to have foretold the birth of Conall. Okay. While the dedication of the Church of Tullagh was lost in folk memory, a documentary reference to Conall as its patron can be found in 1476 and again in 1481, while to the present day there is a holy well dedicated to the saint in Glebe townland, which also contains the site of the ruin of Ahadown parish church. And the reference was to the church of St. Conall of Tullagh. Okay, and these are the references now from the 1400s. So we have a new big church, important church, which wasn't there before till I came along. Orion has some comments to it. Professor Orion, he's the specialist in hagiography and saints, and he has a reference to it as well. The crucial piece of evidence for it, as in a modern sense, however, is the sighting of an ancient stone slab within the walls of the ruin of Tullagh Church. John Sheehan of the School of Archaeology in UCC describes this stone as follows. This slab is likely early medieval in date, somewhere between AD 600 to 900. The base favours an early date. It could be a skeuomorph of a metal stand in stone, quite frequently found in the early medieval carvings for County Galway, but is a bit anyway, the commentary is there. You can see for yourselves. That's what they call a Latin cross, and it comes from a set of a style of lapidary, or a style of stonework that come actually from the east. The flabellum, which was the peacock feather, which was waved in the heat. They have heat, of course, in the Mediterranean. The flabellum was waved to cool the priest. It was held by an acolyte or an altar server, and this type of cross is associated with that as well. Okay, you can see there that the curling away from the it's hard to see it from there now. It comes out here and it curves back, and it's a decorative feature that is okay, so we're nearly there. The presence of such an early feature as a cross slab in Tullagh is significant. When we take all of the above references together, it seems highly likely that the Tuath Church of Tuath Igil is that of Tullagh, a hitherto lost early church of certain importance. We might note in passing that the family of Igil might suggest by their surname some veneration or connection with Skellig Michael off the Kerry coast and its patron, the Archangel Michael. A second reference occurs in the genealogies to the great vicar O'Gilla Michael, alias Open Purse. He was generous. The Arcanach of Glen Barahan or Castlehaven. So that's a lovely surname, but it's unfortunately appears to be extinct. But it was clearly these people were powerful people in the Baltimore to Castlehaven district in the 11th century. That's what shows us there. And there's the offending. Okay, now I think that's possibly my final slide. If indeed the earthwork in the Lisfield is a Ringfort, then the above study has shown how it might have been used as a residence for local clergy or for part of a set of important clerical residences. There is no reason, of course, why the earthwork in the Lisfield could not have acted as secular or ecclesiastical habitations, while at the same time descending from much earlier times. It should be noted, however, that the suggested Bronze Age date for excavations at Carrick-Illihy, that's what's claimed by Billy O'Brien. He's saying basically that the Ringfort is not a Ringfort, it's a Bronze Age burial, upon which is based the suggested Bronze Age date for the Lisfield or for the Baltimore Ringfort is contested and is by no means certain. As always, archaeological investigation is desirable and may settle the argument as to origins. Thank you.